Yeah, I was thinking about when you were coming in and the lessons learned from running a daily show. We were just chatting before in the kitchen about my partner and producer Lauren said, I don't know how you do this daily thing. I'm curious as to, before anyone started seeing the video, when you first started out, you obviously had this idea, look, no one's doing daily in Australia yet, really. I think only Hamish and Andy have just started doing podcast only daily.
Well, yeah, they don't even do, like, they do their one a week or whatever, but there's, outside of radio shows that are repurposing for podcasts, no one. No.
So how soon did that responsibility really dawn on you? Like, you clicked play on or publish on episode 1 and it was out there.
Yeah, I think if you've worked in tech, you've probably heard of the minimum viable product.
Yeah.
And so that's what we set out to do. I just made a film with Christian Hull just beforehand, and he was talking about how he'd done his podcast and he did 50 episodes before he told anyone basically on social media. And so when we started talking about it, that was something that Tommy and I both it really resonated with us. And so we said, okay, let's do, because we've many times done what I think is the common thing, which is grand statements, grand gestures. Guys, we're building this massive studio. Episode 1 coming next week, and we've done that enough times. We've made enough grand gestures to realise that the magic doesn't sit within the grand gesture. The magic sits in the consistency over years and years and years and years of doing it. So we started with, like, let's do a mini gesture of 20 episodes before we even start talking about it.
There's motivation in grand gestures, though. That's the annoying bit. Is because you get yourself excited, but it's essentially the gym membership and buying the new sweat gear, it's like that gets you a bit excited, but it doesn't actually make you stick at it.
Yeah. And
it's temporary.
I think for you guys as well, it seems like you've had a pretty similar journey with the way you went about it. Like, you took, I think in the last year you've started doing video. So the last 5 months, right?
Yeah, since January,
and we've been in the same boat as well, but you sort of really laid the groundwork for, like, I honestly had not heard of you until you started doing video, which goes to the point and the value of the video, but you cut your craft before that, didn't you?
Yeah. Because as video people, we know how hard it is.
Yeah.
And so when someone's selling up a simple solution for filming your podcast, we know it's not that. We know all the barriers. Yeah. And so for us, it was easy recording audio for half an hour every single day. Like, that seemed like, that was a no-brainer.
Yeah. And the other thing too is it's like that is our strength. That is our competitive advantage. If we were to provide what we were doing from a production standpoint to an organisation, they would end up spending $500,000 a year in production and time, and so that was part of it. But we know the pain of video, and so we were very intentional. Where it's like, if we've done this amount of episodes, we are only going to start doing video when we know that we can do it every single day.
Yeah,
and I see so many people giving advice of like, just start, just start doing, like just I saw a guy say something like, I've been asked a question lately, how did I get from 860,000 to 6 million in revenue? I was like, very specific for a lot of people to be asking you that. But then he just said, I worked my ass off, which I thought was like this top level piece of advice that isn't really helpful for most people.
Yeah.
Because I think about us just starting, because we could say just show up and do the podcast, but it's also like all the bullshit we've done by ourselves that haven't worked and the lessons we've learned along the way. So it's like finding the thing, and we actually enjoy talking with each other each day.
Yeah.
And so, coming from radio, there's partnerships that don't like each other, which I couldn't be paid enough money to do that. Like, I would seriously consider knocking back lots of money, because it is your life. It does consume you when you're around somebody, conversing for 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like on radio. But it's like, and so there's that element of the friendship that Josh and I didn't even know we had. didn't know worked, very polar opposite upbringings and beliefs, and that works. And so like that's where it's like that's a bit of luck, I think.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is we can look back and say, okay, it was this or that, and I think that there are always convenient stories around how it happened. I think that part of it is that the barrier to entry was low, and the other part was that I remember if you go back to the first 100 episodes, there was a time where we said we might stop doing this at 100 episodes. Now we've committed to we're going to do this for 10 years, and the reason that we commit to 10 years is because it's like Mr. 97's on board. He's already said, I was telling Mum the other day, I'm like, it's on the show for 10 years and we're building and it's all happening.
Yeah.
And so like with all advice, I think the opposite can always be true as well.
Well, it sort of sounds like you capped your downside. It's like, all right, two mates, we're just going to catch up every day and have a conversation and we'll see sort of what happens in a way. And then over time, you've gotten signals that, and we all get it. You know, the ones that have survived doing podcasting for 100 plus episodes, you start to get those things like, oh, I saw that episode the other day, or someone spoke to me about your podcast, like just all these little things that, you know, Mr. 97 reaching out, all these little things that sort of checking off those confirmation biases that you should continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's slow. I think like part of it is the expectation has always been extremely low, and that's why from day one it was a conversation sometimes worth recording.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to point out that it's like, hey, sometimes like we're going to miss the mark, which is just what happens when you do a show 5 days a week.
Yeah.